I've been wanting to make a top 10 video for a while now, as I think they're a good video idea, despite being old. And what better idea for a top 10 would be the quest system in BTD6. This list is solely based off of the difficulty factor, and I'll be including all quests, including the tutorials. And of course, this is my opinion, so if a quest you find easy is near the top, then I either suck or I just had trouble with it. So without further ado, let's get listing. This is the only tutorial quest that will be on this list. Like any other tutorial quest, a guide to the Book of Spirits has Patch guide you through on how Corvus works. You'll learn how to manage mana, as well as his spells and abilities such as Repel, Soul Harvest, and Spear. After some time, Patch will leave you on your own on round 5. From here, you'll have to make use of Corvus' spells to beat the rounds. Now I consider this harder than the other tutorial quests for a few reasons. The most obvious being that you have Corvus, and Corvus only. Now you do have your spells, but there being 16 of them makes you required to do more micro, which some people aren't the best at. And managing your mana on top of this makes you really need to focus if you want to win. Not to mention that some of these rounds come out of nowhere. Round 8 has Camo Blues, which make you activate the Vision spell, but shortly after, round 9 has Camo Rainbows, but by the time you see them, the Vision spell will be on cooldown, which might make some lose right then and there. Round 11 also has Purples that come out of nowhere, and the only way for the Spirit to pop Purples is with the Trample spell. At least I think so. And the last challenge is 1 MOAB on round 14. This quest really teaches you to focus on Corvus, otherwise you'll lose. Yet it also shows what Corvus is all about, which is the perfect introduction for a hero on a tutorial quest. Also, you don't have your monkey knowledge, which kinda sucks. I personally think that Phayze is kind of annoying, and Phayze One certainly has that annoyance here. Now thankfully there are modifiers that make Phayze weaker, so he's not much of an issue, but this quest still has its difficulties. The goal for this experiment quest is to pop Phayze 40 times. He starts with 400 HP and his reality shield, and every time he gets popped, he immediately comes back with a tiny bit more health than before, and you'll get a bit of cash too, which increases the more you pop him. Oh, and that cash will pretty much be your only source of income. The normal rounds give very little cash, so popping Phayze is essential to getting more cash. Keep in mind that you do have infinite lives, but every 150 lives you lose, Phayze will warp forward, which gives you less chances to pop him. Chances are, if you don't know much about how Phayze works, then this experiment quest will give you some trouble. And to make things worse, your monkey knowledge is disabled. An important thing to know is that Phayze disables camo giving towers like a monkey village, so you'll need towers with built-in camo detection in order to pop Phayze. Now it is a rather slow start, but have enough patience and you'll be able to clear this quest in no time, and even be able to go for a high score. But this experiment quest can be a decent challenge to those who aren't too experienced with the game. And here's another experiment quest. Fast Upgrades is a really unique yet also challenging experiment quest. It starts off as normal, and you have to get through 6 rounds. On round 2 though, your towers will automatically upgrade, and this will happen on every round until your towers are tier 5s. Most of the challenge here comes from finding the right towers to use. This is because the rounds always upgrade the middle path, unless you upgrade a different path before any other path can be upgraded. So for example, if you place down a glue gunner and don't touch it, the rounds will upgrade it to the middle path. But if you touch one upgrade on the top path, then the rounds will focus on upgrading that path. This really has you plan out on what upgrades will be needed, as the rounds are no joke. Round 1 just has simple reds, round 2 has some greens, round 3 has leads, round 4 has ceramics, round 5 has some BFBs, and round 6 has MOABs, fortified DDTs, and a bad. These rounds require you to plan out what tier 5s are probably the best getting. Due to starting cash, not every tier 5 is available, which limits your choices a decent amount. Thankfully, you still have your monkey knowledge to make things easier. Despite the challenge, this experiment quest is really unique, and I hope we'll get to see more quests like this in the future. We're not done with the experiment quests yet, because next up is MOAB Madness, and it certainly is madness. There's 5 rounds and 50 MOAB class balloons on each round. Yup, you heard that correctly. 50 freaking MOAB class balloons on each round, and they're all different types. Round 1 has 50 MOABs, round 2 has 50 BFBs, round 3 has 50 fortified DDTs, round 4 has 50 ZOMGs, and round 5 has 50 BADs. And you must take down all of these. You may wonder why this isn't higher on the list, and that's because this experiment quest is similar to the fast upgrades experiment quest, as the main challenge comes from finding the proper towers to use. Now you also get $50,000 to start, which is a nice head start, but even once you do find the best towers to use, you may need to use a bit of micro and strategy for the round, since most of the MOABs are pretty clustered together. Although it can get overwhelming, you thankfully have access to your monkey knowledge to make things easier, and that's about it for this experiment quest. It gets you thinking on what towers to use, and also keeps you focused on the round, which can be decently hard since it's easy to get overwhelmed. I bet you were expecting at least one telequest to appear on this list, and we have the new Dart just dropped telequest right here. For this quest, Scoop wants to tell us a story about two Dartling gunners who heard about some new Dart tech Dr. Monkey wanted to develop but didn't have the money for. The story for it is actually pretty unique, but I won't focus on it too much since this list is about how hard the quests are. But anyways, in order to raise money for this new Dart tech, we must get to $100,000 before round 100. We start off with two Dartling gunners and we just defend the rounds like normal, but they are custom rounds, which makes them a bit more tricky. After some time, a banana farmer on the other side of the fence would send over a banana farm to kickstart money making. And all you really do from here is just defend the rounds while making enough money to not only reach the 100k required, but also upgrade your Dartling gunner so that you don't lose. And some of the early rounds send lots of Bloons that might be a little overwhelming. But once you buy Hydro rocket pods on both Dartling gunners, you can completely focus on farming and reach the 100k required by round 45. Also, a Bloon Dissolver Glue Gunner shows up on round 9 to assist, and that's all he does. That's about it for Section 1. Section 2 is where things get interesting, because when we arrive at the end of the road, we see that Dr. Monkey has already installed the new Dart tech we were raising money for, which are all these fences. Also, the Glue Gunner came along with us, but he doesn't do anything. He just watches. But anyways, these fences are special as projectiles bounce off of them, and you'll have to utilize these fences and aim at the right places in order to defend 25 rounds of Bloons. It's quite creative and really gets your brain thinking on what the best angles are, but at the same time it's challenging as the darts don't always go where you want them to go, and you may need to adjust your aim to hit certain Bloons that your darts may be missing. On round 17, an engineer monkey takes down some fences, and apparently it's because the invoice wasn't paid. But from here on out, you'll have to strategize on how to deal with DDTs and other types of MOAB class Bloons, and these rounds won't give you the easiest time. And at the end, Scoop says how this story makes him wish he was a Dartling gunner. But seriously, not only does this tail quest have some challenge, its storytelling is pretty good and has you really understand how the whole thing is going. Also, we have access to our monkey knowledge during the whole quest, which makes it easier. Have you ever wondered how Bloonarius was first discovered? Well, a Slimey Expedition has Dr. Monkey tell Scoop about how they first discovered Bloonarius through 3 different sections. Now to get something obvious out of the way, you have access to your monkey knowledge. You're put on logs and have infinite rounds. As you can see, logs is feeling pretty object heavy today, and there are all these globs of slime that you need to remove throughout the match. Remove all 7 and you'll be done. It's quite simple. All you can do is just a simple ninja alchemist combo, and then dealing with the slime is easy. It's a tad bit expensive, costing $750, but that price is nothing once you reach the late 20s. For the second section, you're now at the cabin and have to remove only 5 globs of slime. Or so it seems. This is where the difficulty starts to pick up. Every few rounds, a new glob of slime appears, and if 15 appear, your monkeys get overwhelmed and lose. Each of the globs costs $750 to remove once again, but you have to strategize on when to buy defense and when to remove the slime. You do get a banana farm, which helps quite a bit, especially if you get a marketplace. After that, removing the slime will be no issue. The early rounds are what really makes this section difficult. It was only until the late 30s where I could finally start moving the slime consistently. One important thing to note is that slime can actually land on your monkeys and completely disable them, forcing you to pay in order to remove the slime, which can get kind of annoying. But once you remove all the slime, victory is yours. The third and final section has more slime, but you don't need to remove it. Instead, you need to focus on the inflator himself, Bloonarius. This version of Bloonarius is much weaker and slower than the normal Bloonarius you fight on boss events, which gives you time to farm and set up a defense. You even get 2,000 starting cash to help start with your farming, and with some slime. Oh, and the slime does not stop coming. You'll constantly need to worry about slime falling on your monkeys. I'd recommend having at least 750 extra cash before buying something, because when the next run starts, there's a chance that slime falls on your monkeys, and having that money to get rid of the slime will be needed. Aside from that, this is just the basic boss event. farm, defend, and defeat Bloonarius. Another thing to mention is that Bloonarius will spew pink balloons, and when you reach a skull, he'll spew MOABs. Once you defeat Bloonarius, victory is yours. This tail quest is fun, yet also challenging, which makes sense since bosses aren't meant to be easy, and it shows that Bloonarius is no joke. Who would have guessed that Mr. Beast would come to BTD6 before GTA 6? Anyways, Protect the Yacht is the new Mr. Beast quest recently added, and it's a hard one. The idea comes from his newest video, at least when recording this. You're put on a custom map that references the Mr. Beast video. Balloons come from 2 lanes that start from the shipping containers and end once they reach the yacht. The goal is simple. Defeat rounds 50 to 100 and you win. You also have your monkey knowledge and you start with $15,000, a glaive ricochet boomerang monkey, and a spike pulp dart monkey. And all you do is protect the yacht. Oh, but this won't be the easiest. This map is easily an intermediate or maybe even advanced map. Although it may not look like it, global towers will be your biggest friends here. And that's basically it. Just defend the rounds as if you're playing a normal game. It's pretty simple, but the map alone makes it decently challenging. Rounds like 63, 76, and 78 may cause problems, but that's naturally how any game goes. I do find this harder than a Slimey Expedition because you need to stay decently focused. Now this technically applies to a Slimey Expedition as well, but in that quest you have lots of time to remove the slime and defeat Bloonarius, while for this quest, you may just randomly lose out of nowhere. But aside from that, this is just your average challenge quest. I'm sure you guys were expecting this to be on the list. Scoop has yet another story to tell us. Scoop's tall tale is about a dart monkey, engineer monkey, and alchemist that were called upon by Super Monkey who knew a Bloon invasion was coming. So to buy time until he got there, the 3 monkeys used support Chinooks to arrive and defend Monkey Meadow. Right as you load it up, you see the 3 monkeys on the right, as well as the support Chinooks. You must use the support Chinook's ability to move the 3 monkeys onto bare spots of the track. It's pretty simple, until you realize that the game is on deflation. Now thankfully you do get some money after every few rounds, which is nice, but even with that cash, these rounds are difficult as hell. On round 4, you're already dealing with camo rainbows, and by the way, the dart monkey is your only source of camo detection. Round 6 adds leads and ceramics on top of camo rainbows, and it just gets worse each time. Now the game suggests you to use a crossbow dart monkey, but what I usually go for is a 402 Juggernaut since it has a lot of pierce and will destroy the ceramics. I always have to use micro in the later rounds due to how packed they are. You will be able to upgrade your alchemist and engineer monkey, which is nice, but this section of the quest will still be pretty challenging. Thankfully, you can use each of the Chinook's crate ability to gain more lives in case you leak down. You can also use the movement ability to slightly move a tower which will allow the Chinook to attack and even blow away Bloon since it has downdraft. And this goes for all sections of this quest. After popping through 13 rounds and claiming victory, you head to Tree Stump, and there's a lot more logs to block your line of sight this time. You also can't place monkeys on the tree stump, but strangely enough, this is way easier than the first section. It may still take a few tries, but simply place a 402 Juggernaut right here and it'll handle all the rounds. You may need to micro a bit for the MOABs, but in the end, you'll lose almost no lives. The last section is what really makes this quest deserving of number 3. You arrive on shoots, and it's pretty much the same routine. The biggest change being that 2 of the support Chinooks crashed, leaving you with only 1. This lengthens the time between abilities since you only have 1 Chinook this time. Oh, and the rounds are not joking at all. Round 1 starts with a swarm of balloons with 6 rainbows as well. My brain might just be dumb, but just this round had me struggle. And this is just round 1. You'll soon need to face lots of regrow leads, camo rainbows, grouped balloons, and MOABs. Also, for some reason, every even-numbered round is skipped. Not sure why, but it makes it so you only have to deal with 12 rounds. On the final round, Super Monkey finally appears in his tech terror form, and the round becomes a cakewalk. But the sheer amount of balloons you need to face is what makes this so hard, especially since you only have 3 towers to work with. You do get much more money in this final section to buy a tier 5, but even with a tier 5, it's still challenging. Oh, and to make things worse, you have no monkey knowledge at all. This quest is so hard that I don't even remember how I managed to beat it the first time. This tail quest is really challenging, but that just makes it all the more satisfying when you do beat it. We are once again back at the experiment quest, and it's time for some intense Bloon rounds. All you gotta do is survive 30 rounds. Sounds easy, right? Well, these rounds are the most packed and stupid rounds ever. By round 4, you're already dealing with an onslaught of regrow balloons. Round 7 has a stream of camo blooms, whites, purples, and a MOAB. Round 10 has grouped pinks, grouped camo regrow purples, grouped ceramics, grouped camo regrow leads, more grouped pinks, and a normal and fortified MOAB. Round 11 has fast grouped regrows, round 14 starts ending BFBs, round 16 has a camo regrow rush of death, round 17 has more packed balloons, round 19 is round 63 on steroids, round 21 has another packed camo rush with fortified BFBs, round 23 has another stupidly packed rush as well as the OMG, round 24 sends out the DDTs, and honestly, every round at this point just feels like you're playing round 98 multiple times. Just take a look at round 27, what is this? I just spent like 45 seconds talking about what could have been talked about in 5 seconds. That should tell you how stupidly hard these rounds are. Now you do have your monkey knowledge, but it doesn't help much. Now yes, you could say that I should try farming, but I don't know how I can farm when I'm dealing with like 1,000 balloons at once. Oh yeah, and round 30 has a bad. Yeah, enough said. I haven't even beaten this legitimately. The footage of round 30 you're currently seeing isn't even my footage. That should tell you how hard this experiment quest is. What else could possibly be harder than this? Well, I can show you. A quest doesn't need to be complicated or have custom rounds in order to be hard. After all, BTD6 is a tower defense game, so a map can heavily determine the difficulty of a quest. And my god, Grow Less Than Galaxili was cranked up to an 11 for seemingly no reason. Now don't get me wrong, I love the Galaxili skin, but this challenge quest is just a pain in the ass. For starters, it's ungeared. Here's a little fact about myself. I hate geared. It's the only map in this game that I hate with a passion. For those who aren't aware, geared rotates 45 degrees clockwise every round, which forces you to put towers on different areas of the gear so that they can attack balloons. It's usually not that bad though when you're using global towers, but it just so happens that every global tower is banned. Now this challenge quest isn't that complicated. All you gotta do is beat round 80 with using less than 80 tiers. But that's way harder than it sounds. Now you can argue that I suck at geared, but that still doesn't change the fact that this challenge quest is still extremely difficult. Oh, and to make it worse, no monkey knowledge for you. The 80 tier limit is also stupid because it goes down much faster than you'd expect. When I first lost on round 65, I looked and saw that I only had 5 tiers left. Yup, only 5. Oh, and just by looking at this defeat screen, you may or may not have noticed something else. There's no continues. At least with the other quests on this list, if you lost, then you could spend monkey money to continue. But this quest straight up says F you, no continues for you. Just like intense balloon rounds, I haven't beaten this legitimately due to how stupidly hard it is. This quest is easy to understand, but easy to understand never means it'll be a cakewalk. And this quest will certainly let you know that. Although I complained a lot in that last one, I still love this game and can't wait to see where the quest system will go in the future, as some are really unique. I originally had Geraldo's tutorial quest at number 10, but then the Mr. Beast quest was added, so it got moved off. It was bad timing, but I couldn't do anything about it. But that was my list. Tell me what you think is the hardest quest in BTD6 in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya!